and I just jumped out. And I mean, Mom screamed so loud, punched me in the face. I'm crying. I'm Cassandra.
And I'm Shawn.
And this is the Call Your Dad podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Call Your Dad podcast. I'm Shawn, here with my daughter, Cassandra, where we unpack random themes and topics each week, usually replete with a handful of stories from our past, and maybe even sneak in a couple of takeaways. It's not that our job here is to try to tell anybody how they should live or pretend like we have this monopoly on wisdom, but hey, we've learned lessons from the lives we have lived, and then if we have something to add to some of the stories that we provide, we'll probably sneak that in here and there. So today, the topic is broadly just titled pranks, and I wasn't
It's my favorite.
100% sure what direction you were thinking when you had told me that, but I went ahead and, like always, try to make a few notes, a few lists. We kind of are a prank family.
Yeah, we definitely thrive in laughter. So, I love pranking people.
Yeah.
I love watching prank videos. I love playing pranks. I love getting, pranks played on me. So,
And everybody is in the crosshairs. So at some point, everybody gets a turn in the barrel. It's
Somehow.
not like we only zero in on one person. Although I will say, over the years, I've had to pull Cassandra back because she was all but bullying Mom, and off and on. Mom was like a favorite target. Like, sweetheart, you got to spread these pranks around a little bit. You can't always have one.
She was so easy to get every time.
And early on, when you were when you were probably 5, 6, 7, I could tell oh boy, this is gonna be a tough one here, because you were already thinking in these what you thought were humorous, I thought diabolical ways.
Terrible.
Because your idea of a prank would be like, hey Dad, let's call Mom from your phone, and then when she answers, I'll just be crying really hard, and then I'll scream help, and then we'll hang up and not answer the phone for 2 hours. I'm like, Cassandra, that's a horrible idea.
Oh my gosh.
What? No.
I feel like you're making that up.
No, well, so actually some of the pranks you suggested, I'm not even going to share here because they were so awful.
So terrible.
And you, in your mind, this will be funny. But again, you're a little kid. You didn't maybe understand how easy it is to give a parent heart palpitations.
Yeah.
Because, we are always first going to be in security lookout mode. And
Thinking
so some of the
worst.
pranks you were offering up, this is going to lead to cardiac arrest. You cannot do this. Do you understand? It's important to me that you understand why you can never do something like that. Oh, okay. Oh God. All right. All right. So I'll kick it over to you to start off. I will tell you some of the pranks that I did in the Air Force, I cannot share because I do not want to incriminate, people who still have active security clearances, right? But I'll kick it over to you for any type of prank you're thinking of that might be family related.
Sure. Okay, so the first one that comes to mind is when Mom punched me in the face. So we're talking about how I made Mom a target, and Mom just, right in the nose. But that's what I get. I shouldn't have done it. So we had been on vacation for 2 weeks, and during those 2 weeks down in the Keys, we had bought in scuba gear or snorkeling gear. So the mask and the tube you breathe out of, and they came on a plastic packaged face. And I remember thinking, oh, that thing's so creepy. It's just white.
Yeah.
We're going to throw a picture on of this thing. I put makeup on it and made it even scarier. And then it had the neck piece where you could fit it in your shirt.
Tuck it into your shirt.
Yeah, so you could just kind of wear it. And I don't know what my obsession was with this thing, but we kept it the whole trip, and I would just wear it, and Mom hated it, and she was terrified of it. Well, Mom thought we threw it away before we came home. Why would we bring that home? We had been gone for 2 weeks. I got in the house before any of you all did. And we drove to the Florida Keys from Indiana. So that is a long car ride home.
Yeah.
Everyone's exhausted. I went in and hid behind the garage door to the laundry room. Mom thought she was the first person in that house, and I just jumped out. And Mom screamed so loud, punched me in the face. I'm crying.
Good.
You're like, what's going on? You think something bad's happening. Alexander now is awake and crying. Everyone just upset and
Yeah, well,
that's one prank. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that was
Yeah.
scary. And like, now as a parent, like if my kids did that to me, I'd punch them in the face too. Like, don't, like, why would you do that?
Right. And just
that wasn't a fun
for
one.
clarification purposes, the punch was not one of punishment. It was one of sheer survival.
She was so scared.
There's an intruder in the house.
Yes.
My life is an existential threat.
She thought,
Fight or flight. There's nowhere to flee, so I got to turn
you
and
gotta
punch.
fight.
Right. So I don't want anybody to get the impression that like
No, 'cause-
face punching was part of the discipline regimen in the Dolly house. So like that was not a thing.
No, and when mom realized it was me, like, even though I had scared her to death, she was like upset that she had done that. You know what I mean? Like when she realized it was me, she was like so sorry.
You're lucky
I'm so
it was
sorry.
Mom that punched you.
I know. Well, that's what
What
I
if
was
you had-
thinking is like, if I did it to you and you punched me
And
in
then
the
I
face,
got to explain to the police officer and the prosecutor.
why you punched your daughter in
Yeah.
the face.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So that's a prank that I will say I regret doing that. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
That wasn't like a funny. We're laughing,
so-
but like that could have been
Yeah.
that could have given mom a heart attack.
You know, maybe not so much a prank, but like, you know, that reminds me though, like one time for about a 10-year period, 3 times a year, Mom would wake me up at 2 or 3 in the morning, like, Shawn, somebody's in the house. And my typical response, like, I wake up, like, no, there's not. You know, just go back to bed. Well, one time she does it, and I hear what can only, in my mind, sound like footsteps in the kitchen. We were living on a 1-story house. The kitchen was between our bedroom and you and your brother's.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to figure out, like, what else could that be other than size 12 boots walking across the floor? And I can't think of anything. I'm like, man, this may be it. Like this may be the one. So we had a landline. You know, it was that long ago that we did not just have cell phones. We still had a corded phone in the house. And then we had one in the bedroom. And I handed it to Mom. And I said, all right. And I laced up my brass knuckles in one hand. And I grabbed my Beretta 9mm in the other. And I told her, I'm leaving the room. I'm locking the door behind me. Do not leave this room until you hear me say, it's me, everything's okay. If you hear yelling, if you hear screaming, you've got this phone, 911.
Right.
You do not unlock that door unless what I told you. So I start creeping out of the bedroom. I've locked the door behind me. I'm approaching the kitchen, coming out of the hallway. And all of a sudden, like an animal being hunted, I feel this predator behind me. Like this wave of warmth, like my sixth sense kicks in.
Like you know.
And, you know, my brain is barely processing, but I realize whoever the bad guy is has me clearly in his sights.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to have to turn around, acquire the target, and engage like in a split second because I'm just going to assume dude has a gun. So I take one more step to kind of like twist
Brace
my body
yeah.
into torque mode where I can swing around. And I'm like, oh my God, like I do not want to be here. This is horrible. And then I swing around and it's Mom right behind me. Do you see anything? Like, oh God, oh.
That's such a mom thing to do, though. That is such a mom thing to do.
And it was one of, like, you were 10, maybe Alexander's 3. And after the smoke settles, there's nobody in the house. To this day, don't know what made that noise. I'm thinking, you know, I'd have a real hard time explaining how I knocked my 110 pounds wife's head off her shoulders at 2 a.m. You know, no witnesses. Like,
Yeah.
well, Your Honor, what you don't understand was I told her not to leave the room, right? Like, it's like,
Yeah.
my sweetheart, like,
Don't do that.
I could not have been more clear. Like, why would you have done that? Like, well, I just make sure you were okay. Like, like
That's such a mom thing to do,
yeah,
though.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that just like
yeah.
oh, mom's her own person.
So the moral of the story is, you know, whether it's a prank or just doing something you maybe
Be
might not want
prepared
do,
to get punched in the face.
Yeah, you know, we used to talk about what we called fire and forget missiles. So like active guidance missiles, like once they leave the rail, like once they leave like that F-15 that shot it, you can't recall it. Like
Yeah.
it's gone,
It's gonna
and it's going to do
blow
its
up,
thing,
yeah.
and then you're just going to have to live, right? So so along those lines, I played a lot of pranks when I was in the Air Force, and there was a few that I want back. Like,
Yeah, like you just
the
wish you
juice
didn't
was
do.
not worth the squeeze on that one. Everybody else got a big laugh, but I got my, you know what, in a sling. I'm like, I got to be careful. Like, there's a
Yeah.
line, and sometimes you get right into it, but you step across it, and you're like, mulligan. Can I get a do over?
Wish I wouldn't have done that.
So, in 2009, Toby Keith was on what are called USO tours. So this is where a private organization arranges for celebrities, comedians, singers, actors, some NFL cheerleading squad, whatever, to visit certain bases in deployed locations.
Rest in peace, Toby Keith.
Man, I tell you what, America lost
I
a
know.
great one when that man passed on. Because I'm not a big music person at all. I mean, regardless of genre. But I greatly admired Toby Keith as a citizen, as an American, as a taxpayer, as a patriot, because he was very giving of his time. He did a lot of those USO tours. He did one in 2009 when I was in Afghanistan. I was the director of operations of this tactical flying squadron, and he comes over. So he flew on our aircraft multiple times. And unlike some of these like LA-based divas, he would grab an acoustic guitar, he would go out to a forward operating base, and for 30 dudes that are living on bottles of water and MREs, doing patrols outside the wire, he would turn a 5-gallon bucket upside down and be like,
Sit on it
what do
and
y'all
just-
want to hear? And he even had some songs that he never released that were very Operation Enduring Freedom centric. Like,
Yeah.
and then some of the lyrics, man, were great. But I could understand why they were never like
Right.
released, right? Well, he leaves on one of our airplanes this pad that you would put under your sleeping bag, like you would put it on your cot to give you some extra cushioning. And so some guy comes into me and says, hey, Major, Toby Keith was on Torque 5.5 and he left this. And it sure enough had a USO tag with his name on the back, and it's his personal possession. And then I quickly thought, like, if this is some elaborate prank where you're making me the butt of a joke, you will live to regret this. Like, if this is some scheme to like joke me, like you're not going to want to do this. Are you sure? Does this really belong to Toby Keith? No, man, I swear. Well, of course I knew who Toby Keith was, and you couldn't help in like the mid 2000s to hear his music all the time.
Yeah.
It was very like pro-soldier, pro-American, right? But I don't really know a lot about him. One of my friends did. And I said, hey, man, we have this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to pull some type of joke on him. But I'm not going after the low-hanging fruit. Like, I want this joke to be something that has meaning. What can you tell me? And he thinks, and he thinks, and he thinks, and finally he goes, man, I know he does not like the Dixie Chicks. It's like, who? So I'm like, I kind of remember those people. So I go and I Google Dixie Chicks, and there's a 3-woman group. There had been some public tussle between those two, right? And that's their business. But now it's my business. And so I'm thinking, all right, well, that one in the middle looks really tall. So I'm just going to guess that she's 5'9", that's 69 inches. I'm going to take that dimension and I'm going to print out a life-size head-to-toe portrait of these 3 women. I'll go back and use that, expensive taxpayer-funded high-resolution printer back in intelligence and tactics. So then I get this thing life-size of the Dixie Chicks, and like I lay it down on his pad that I had unfurled, and then I lay it and I just roll it all up together, and then I just put it back into that sleeve and I cinch it shut. And so I tell, the crew that is bringing him back from one of the forward operating bases, like, give me like a 15-minute out call. So at some point later on the satellite communication channel, I get this digital readout, like, Tango Kilo, TK, Toby Keith, 15 mics out, 15 minutes out on, whatever, Torque 7.7. So I go out to the flight line where the plane taxis in with Toby Keith on board. And because the flight line is a restricted area, only a few people can be out there.
Sure.
So he gets off the plane. I'm like, hey, Toby, and I'm holding this up. And he looks like, and I walk over. Now, I had never seen him in real life. I certainly had never been up close. He's enormous.
Yeah.
He is huge.
Big guy.
And he's not like, I work out at Planet Fitness and I'm cut big.
He's just a big guy.
He's like, I baled hay 12 hours a day for 15 years big.
Yeah.
His muscles weren't gym muscles. Like his worked. Like
Yeah.
And as I'm handing this to him, he's like, oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate you. I'm thinking, man, this may be one of the dumbest things I've ever done. Like, again, living my Forrest Gump life, does my day conclude with me getting the crap beat out of me by Toby Keith in Afghanistan, right? But again, that missile had left the rail.
Yeah.
This is in motion.
You can't be like, I need that bag back, actually.
So he's going to play a huge, quote unquote, concert that night for maybe a couple thousand people in the main hangar on base. And that's 6 hours from now. So I guarantee you he is going to get a nap.
Yeah.
So man, now for 6 hours, I'm starting to worry. Like, I may have done something here that I'm going to
Regret.
Right? Because again, I don't know the guy. I don't know what his sense of humor is. So I get to the concert area about 90 minutes early, and there's this guy in the middle of the hangar floor with this soundboard that looks like you could command NASA.
Right.
I mean, it's got more buttons, knobs, and dials on it than I could count. And this is coming from a guy that flies a pretty complex cockpit. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, you could probably control the International Space Station with this thing. So I walk up to him like, hey man, are you in the Toby Keith band? He's like, well, yeah. And he's not really paying attention to me. He's sliding levers and dialing stuff up. And then I say, well, don't take this the wrong way, but like, are you just contracted for this tour, or are you part of like the Toby Keith organization? And he's like, yeah, yes, like I'm the sound guy. I've been with Toby Keith for 15 years.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you what I did. I'd like to know your thoughts on this. So I start to tell him the story. And as I'm starting, he's still focused on his job. But as he hears more, he starts to get a little more interested. Then he just stops doing his job and he's looking at me. And I conclude, and then I handed him this knapsack with the thing rolled up. And he's like, you did that to him? I said, yeah. Today? Yeah. Oh, man, you got him good. He can't stand it. Hey, Bill. Hey, Mike.
Yeah,
hey,
like,
buddy. Hey, get over, man. Hey, man. Hey, tell them what you just did, right? And so I tell them, and they're like, oh, man, that's hilarious. I said, now, he's not going to, look, he ain't not going to come out here on stage and be like, look, I came over here to give you all a concert, and then you all mess with my personal stuff. Screw you, I'm leaving. Like, no, not at all.
It's a good prank.
Now, again, they had some kind of public row, and so he left the past in the past. Like, he wasn't going to acknowledge it, right? But then obliquely, he made reference to it like a couple days later when he was back stateside. Like, shout out to my Bagram bros and make sure I got a good nap in before the Saturday concert, whatever. But he was a gentleman who took the high road. And again, America lost an institution, when Toby Keith passed away, because he was beloved by all those soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marine that had sand in their boots for a 20-year period, in the Middle East and Afghanistan.
When I went to that Sand in My Boots festival, there was a bunch of country music artists who played, gave tribute to Toby Keith, and it was awesome. It was a good time.
Yeah.
But anyways, okay, so Toby Keith prank, that was a good one. That's a funny story. When you were talking about Toby Keith, I started thinking like Grandpa, there was times where he would listen to him. But I was thinking about some of the pranks that Grandpa played, which Grandpa's not like a pranky guy. Like,
No.
You know what I mean? So the fact that he did, that's the
He's
funny
got a
part.
good sense of humor, but he's not one to initiate a joke like that. Yeah.
But Grandma and Grandpa, they live out in Palmyra in the middle of nowhere, and they have that big farm land and the barn and everything. And so I would spend the night there. And one night, like Grandma, because I liked the pranks, so Grandma tells Grandpa, like, Bruce, why don't you play a little prank on her? Like, we'll go lay in the room, because their master bedroom had that sliding glass door out to the yard.
Yeah, and you were how old at the time?
Maybe 4 or 5.
Right. So
I have clips in my head. Grandma remembers in detail the full story. I just have little flashbacks.
Yeah.
But she was like, hey, Bruce, why don't you give us a scare? We'll go lay down. Because every time I'd spend the night, I'd sleep in the bed. Me and Grandma would sleep together, and he'd sleep out on the couch or something. So she's like, why don't you give us a good scare?
Yeah.
She'll like that.
Now, keep in mind, my mom is probably thinking a good scare is him knocking on the door and going, whoa, I'm a ghost. Boo.
Yeah.
Boo.
Definitely.
Right, yeah.
Definitely.
That's what my mom was thinking.
Yeah. Well, instead, we're laying in the bed, and that sliding glass door rips open, and he has a chainsaw. Just mask. He had a Jason mask on, and the chainsaw just.
And he's
yelling really loud, and the chainsaw's. I mean, I thought she was gonna go to jail. I thought she was gonna kill him. I thought she was literally going to kill him.
Yeah.
And she has more detail about that story, but I remember that. And then Grandpa, I remember one time we went on a cruise. You all didn't go, but I went on a cruise with Grandma and Grandpa and some of the other aunts and cousins. And Grandpa made a comment. I'm sorry, he didn't come. You all didn't come, he didn't come. But he made a comment to Grandma about the fruit he packed. And Grandma's thinking, why would you put fruit in our suitcases? Yeah. That's disgusting. Yeah. She's thinking there's some bananas and oranges. And he's like,
they'll be nice and black and shriveled by the time you get there.
And he's like, I was just trying to do something nice for you. And, she's irritated. Why would you shove fruit in our suitcase? And she flips open the suitcase and it's a big bag of runts.
Yeah, well,
But in Grandpa, that actually might be Grandpa's fruit.
So
his food groups.
My dad has stayed healthy. He even he's 71 now. Every day, do push-ups and some pull-ups. He's always been fit, but his food groups are basically
chicken fingers,
malted milk balls, jawbreakers, and pretty much anything the color blue. That's he doesn't eat the food pyramid or whatever.
No.
So we weren't
was that
100% sure that he didn't know that runts were not fruit, but
Grandpa.
So sometimes you can get secondary effects from pranks. You once suffered, I think, the worst for it when I was the butt of a joke. So I have always drove really old cars. I've never had a car payment in my life. I will never spend money on something that just gets me from A to B. So I had this sweet ride. I had a 10-year-old Ford Escort that I bought that only had 16,000 miles on it because the elderly woman who had owned it before me had it for a year, and then she could no longer drive. So it sat in her retirement home parking lot for another 9 years, and I bought it. But it was not the most stylish vehicle on the road.
It's terrible.
It was gold, but it was an LX. It wasn't just any Ford Escort. It was an LX edition. So one day, my buddies, we would always more or less go to lunch together, groups of us, not always the same people, but people were always leaving at 11. And they were really insistent that I drive because we would always just leave our keys in our desk drawer. So grab your keys. And I'm like, well, why
do you all want to ride in my car?
Anyway, we get out to my car. These idiots had ordered spinners online back when spinners was very much a thing.
This.
And they sized them out. They had the right dimensions. Ride. Yeah. And so they insist. Now, quick side note, two of my friends together haven't been south of 500 pounds since they were probably 18 years old. They're big. They're real big, strong guys. So those two guys sat in the back seat. My car was never right after that. That's a quarter ton of beef in the back seat. Struts were shot. The car never rode right again. But I'm like, all right, I'll play along. You can't, if you're the guy who's always pranking, you can't then throw a fit
right, when someone pranks you.
When you get
right.
pranked. So
you gotta take it.
I commit, I'll leave them on for a week. You all took a lot of time.
They had to order them.
This means a lot to you, so I'll be a good sport. Well,
I wanted to die.
Yeah, so I'm coming to pick you up in school. So I'm sitting in the car line, my spinners, are just going. Or I can remember times we'd be on the road around school, either coming or going.
And I would just
you would recline that seat all the way back.
Yeah.
You're basically laying in the back seat. And then you were asking me every time we stopped, describe in detail the vehicles that are around us.
The car next to
you.
Yeah,
I want to know, is there, and then one time I'd say, well, it's this, make, model, color. And is there a girl driving? I said, yeah. Does she have blonde hair with brown streaks? I'm yes. Oh my God.
I knew.
You were so worried, right?
Oh,
and I would have been the
that.
same way.
Well, just because it's I think it's funny when you're pulling it in your work parking lot with everyone who's oh my gosh, ha ha ha, we put spinners on Shawn's car. It's different when we're pulling into Christian Academy and I'm do these people think we did this on purpose?
Yeah.
Surely they don't believe that we put spinners on this piece of crap car. This is not, I'm but that stressed me out.
Yeah. So So that's one where you got like the downhill effects from a
For
joke
sure.
aimed at me. And then sometimes you start a joke where you are the protagonist, but you end up being, the villain. So back to a deployment prank or series of pranks, I was the commander of a squadron in the Middle East where we were flying missions to both Iraq and Afghanistan. So we were centrally located, and another USO tour. This time they were bringing over that season's America Got Talent, like the final 7 or whatever. So I'm like, sure, I'll give them a tour of our, the non-classified parts of our building, and I'll take them out to the airplanes. So, I'm not a singer. I can't sing. But this was around the time that a few years prior, a movie called Team America had come out. And it was like a spoof about like super over the top pro America. And there was these puppets that was, and there was like these, very, very specific types of song that were kind of poking fun at the super over the top patriotic music of the time. And so I record myself on a CD singing one of those songs. And I can't remember exactly, but it's something like, what would you do if you were asked to give up your dreams for freedom? And then like it goes on, and then it's like, freedom isn't free. It takes folks like you and me. But I'm hitting every note, and I'm dragging out every syllable, and I'm trying to hit octaves that, Whitney Houston couldn't hit. And I record it, and then I write on like Colonel Dolly mixtape. So when this American Got Talent crew gets into the van with me, and I've got another dude with me, I'm like, hey, I don't know if this is like, poor form, but I really want you all to listen to this and tell me if you can maybe open some doors for me.
Okay.
So,
oh my God.
Yeah. So
I've never heard this story. I am dying inside
So I
right
put
now.
the CD in, and as this plane, I'm driving, and I'm like,
You're into
I'm
it.
like, oh, really getting into it. And you want to talk about making 7 people very uncomfortable.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
they're there because they want to support the troops, right?
Right.
And now they've got the commander, one of the troops, basically.
And this is like, you were basically like a Michael Scott
Oh,
before
yeah.
Michael
Yes.
Scott was
Yeah,
Michael
yeah,
Scott.
right. So now,
Like how uncomfortable for them.
All right.
Poor people.
so then my buddy who's in the very back, I can just see him like coming apart at the seams. He's laughing so hard, and then so I let him off the hook. I let him out like ha 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 as a joke, and then they all like,
Thank God.
they can breathe, right. So we get to the destination. I'm taking them out to one of the airplanes. Now it was a co-ed crew, so these 7 singers, it was I think maybe 3 guys, 4 gals, or maybe flip, but and some of those women, young women, they were attractive. I mean, and they're quasi celebrities, and they're on tour, and so I tell a crew, be out at the airplane and be prepared to give them a little walk around, right? And the crew's not flying that day. They're just, okay, yeah, sure, we'll be out there to, show them the cockpit, the airplane, walk around. Well, they know who I'm bringing. And I should have known better than this. I get out to the airplane, and the 3 of the guys, they're like younger guys, fit. They went to that airplane a half hour early to like do a bunch of push-ups and pull-ups,
gosh.
and then they coated themselves in baby oil.
Oh
And they had their
my
shirts off. They had their
gosh.
flight suits like tied around their waist, and then they pretended like we just like, oh, we didn't know you all were coming, right?
Oh.
And I'm like, put your clothes back on, because there's a public affairs person with us
Yeah.
with a camera, like put your clothes back on, and so this is one where in the course of 15 minutes,
They're experiencing a lot all of a sudden. They're
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's a lot.
they're like, we're never going to win these wars. Like these
These are the guys. These are the guys that are over here fighting.
yeah, but no.
Oh
so,
my gosh.
So this is one like in the course of like 15 minutes, fortunes swang. Like
Yeah.
I'm thinking, oh, ha, 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 I'm playing a
Hilarious.
prank. Then I show up and like this is,
They're now basically pranking you.
but some of these things, I get it. Trying to explain this to a network news anchor, like, well, this seems very unprofessional. I mean, you all are supposed to be committed and professional patriots engaged in serious. Like, yeah, exactly, dude. And we're there for 6 months. And so we are going to take every single opportunity we can
Yeah.
to interject some humor and levity.
Yeah.
We send off enough caskets from this theater of operations. We deliberately engage in combat missions where we purposely are putting our aircraft into the weapon engagement zone of men who have machinery designed to shoot us down and take our life. I'm not going to defend myself to you across the
While
news
you're
desk
laughing.
while I'm trying to keep
Definitely.
my sanity, right? So, but again, I get it. At the high level, it'd be easy for somebody in New York or LA at a news station, like, oh, that's just ridiculous. You can't. Like, well, I think everybody, regardless of your profession, if you are having fun where you work and you're getting your job done, that's the kind of place you want to be.
Amen. That
Right?
I mean, yeah.
Because those same guys, there's a switch, and when they need you to throw it, all right, now I am in kick-ass take name mode. I can get into that gear.
Mm-hmm.
But in their downtime,
Be as good as you want.
just don't do something illegal. Like,
Right.
don't do something
break
that
the
I
law.
cannot
Yeah.
defend at a court martial, right?
But no, I mean, I agree. Like you said, like if you can bring that humor and laughter into work, I mean, you've won. I mean, because that's what imagine going through life every day not laughing and
Yeah.
just being nothing. I mean,
Sure.
something about a laugh and a good prank and just, it really makes a difference in your everyday. And so
yeah.
I'm all for it. Like, laughter in the workplace, laughter in real life, laughter in family gatherings. It just makes the world of a
Yeah.
difference, honestly.
So kind of like quick intermediate cut. How much time do we have, or where are we at?
You're right at 30 minutes.
Okay. Then we'll
wrap it up. Yeah.
We'll wrap. Okay. All right. So we'll kind of get back in character. All right. Well, yeah, could not agree more. Life is serious enough. There are enough things that come our way that require us to be, emotionally sober and focused and fully committed. So I feel like we've been blessed also with the opportunity to enjoy our life.
Mm-hmm.
And so long as that humor is not at the expense too often of other people's sanity, we should probably take every opportunity we can, because life will
definitely.
deal us plenty of opportunities to be sad. Let's take those opportunities to also be happy. So
Yep, I agree. So awesome. All right, guys. Well, we will see you next week on Call Your Dad podcast.
take care. We hope that you enjoyed today's episode.
Yes, please make sure to like, follow, and subscribe.
See you next time.